The movie starts in a world that's all messed up. A bad thing called the shred has spread all over, and it's making people forget stuff. There's this one guy who's all alone. He's looking for a safe place and finds a big greenhouse with a sign that says "Don't come in." But he goes close anyway and gets shot by someone named B. Inside the greenhouse, there's a family living there. It's a mom and her kids, B, Evie, Daisy, and Gabe. The mom made a plan for them to survive, like growing their own food and wearing special necklaces to remember things. They also wear masks to stay safe outside. Gabe sometimes forgets his mask and that makes him act strange. The family doesn't let anyone else come into their safe place. If someone they don't know comes, they shoot them. But first they check if the person is not their lost brother, Luca, who has a special code. When someone is killed, the girls take some body parts for rituals and use the rest as fertilizer, burying them outside. The man who was shot today had a photograph in one of his pockets. Evie decides to keep it for herself before getting rid of his remains. Later, she hides the photograph in a secret box within the greenhouse. During their ritual gatherings around the harvested body parts, the family thanks the glasshouse for protecting them. They've decorated all the glass walls with drawings telling the story of the mother coming here with her family as a promise not to forget where they came from. One evening while B is watching outside, she sees a stranger approaching. The stranger takes off his mask. B tries to communicate with him using a flashlight for the code, but the stranger doesn't reply. As per their rules, she should get rid of him, but something about his face makes B react oddly. When the stranger collapses, B decides to break the rules and brings him inside. Mother gets angry and wants to get rid of him, but Daisy points out that everything inside their sanctuary is sacred according to their second rule, so the stranger is protected. Mother uses this chance to teach the girls how to fix wounds, starting with the stranger's injured leg. The next morning, the newcomer wakes up securely tied to a bed and finds B sleeping on the floor beside him. Gabe also wakes up and realizes he had an accident while tied to the bed. Evie goes to find B to help clean up. B, wanting to be near the newcomer, quickly assists Evie in changing the dirty sheets without noticing that Gabe is still in bed. This creates an awkward moment among the siblings. B then rushes back to groom the newcomer's facial hair, only to find that he's already awake. Despite feeling afraid, she tries to ask him some questions, but the newcomer stays silent. After B and Evie changed his bandages, Mother came to talk to the man. He said he might never have had a name. He told them that society has almost completely fallen apart. There are only a few people left wandering around, desperate for things. He got hurt when one of them attacked him. He asked if he could leave, but Mother said no. She wanted him to stay and work like everyone else because now he knows about them. Later, Evie noticed that Gabe felt uncomfortable around the stranger. She tried to cheer him up by showing him the toys he used to make, but he couldn't remember them. B, who is more confident, brought Gabe closer to the newcomer. She wanted to show Gabe that the man is just like them, but Gabe still felt unsure. The following morning, the newcomer is assigned to work in the greenhouse, still restrained for security. B's infatuation with him continues, and she brings him a plate of fresh fruit, elated to see him pick a strawberry. She also promises to teach him how to read. Whenever Evie needs assistance with chores, B tries to persuade her to do them alone to have more time with the newcomer. This frustrates Evie, who reminds her that they can't trust a stranger, but B is too infatuated to listen. During the window sealing task, B works diligently while explaining to the newcomer that the drawings depict their family's history. The newcomer notices an illustration of a man and inquires about him. B responds that he was her everything. At dinner, B attempts to have the newcomer sit at the table, but Mother insists that he cannot take Luca's place and directs him to sit with the plants. When the newcomer asks about Luca, he learns that Luca was their sibling who departed in search of survivors and hasn't returned. Time passes, and the newcomer's leg gradually improves. Daisy, intrigued by the concept of animals, questions the stranger since she has never seen one. So the newcomer sketches a horse and pledges to carve one for her if she can find him a knife. Consequently, Daisy pilfers a knife from her sister's stash and brings it to him. Gabe becomes envious when he sees Daisy bonding with the stranger. At a later point, the stranger completes the horse carving for Daisy in the form of a puzzle. Gabe discovers it, and the newcomer allows him to play with it, but Gabe struggles to solve it, fearing he's being replaced. Gabe erupts into a violent tantrum, tossing objects around. When the girls attempt to intervene, they are unable to restrain him. In this emergency, the stranger persuades Daisy to release him, and he manages to subdue Gabe by bringing him to the ground to calm him. In the evening, B examines herself in the mirror and notices a bruise on her face from Gabe's tantrum. The stranger approaches and teases her about it, causing Bee to accidentally refer to him as Luca. The stranger then admits he can't be Luca because he has feelings for Bee that a brother shouldn't have. Surprisingly, Bee is pleased to hear this because Luca also had forbidden feelings for her. The family decides to no longer keep the stranger shackled, and he is allowed to move freely within the house. One morning, the stranger discovers Bee with her box and inquires about it. Bee explains that it used to be a game she played with Luca. The stranger expresses interest in playing, but Bee declines, emphasizing that he isn't Luca. She also reminds him that he shouldn't participate in all the rituals, such as the singing in the garden, because he is an outsider. However, the stranger disagrees, suggesting that these rituals are performed to remember who they are, hinting that he may need to remember as well. Afterward, he talks to Daisy and Bee to learn more about the box. Daisy can't recall it because she was too young, but Bee remembers that Luca always kept strawberries in it, which are her favorite. Later, the stranger approaches Evie to apologize for offending her, but Evie still harbors mistrust and admits she would have shot him if she had been on sentry duty that day. The stranger offers to assist with sentry shifts, but Evie advises him to be cautious as he departs. The stranger encounters Mother, who elucidates that everything has a purpose, and she already has a plan for him, but it doesn't involve Evie. The following day, the sisters are tending to the plants when the stranger approaches to leave a strawberry for Bee. In Bee's perspective, this signifies that he might truly be Luca, but has forgotten, while Evie remains skeptical, perceiving it as a potential manipulation. In the afternoon, the stranger joins Bee during her sentry duty, seeking to deepen their connection. He offers her solace, persisting even when Bee must shoot another wanderer. The usual process is followed to tend to the new body. Once that's taken care of, Bee and the stranger become intimate in the entryway of the house. Since the walls are all made of glass, Evie happens to pass by and witnesses their actions, triggering an old memory. She recalls seeing Bee engage in similar behavior with Luca years ago, which caused her to overlook little Gabe's request to go outside. Suddenly, the stranger notices Evie and she flees. Later, the stranger discovers something unusual in the soil and unearths Evie's box. Inside, there's a small bag with Luca's name containing 2 old batteries and a necklace with the letter L. He approaches Daisy to inquire about these necklaces, learning that Mother crafted them when the children were born, and they were not meant to be removed. When it's time for another ritual, the stranger joins them at the table, upsetting Evie, who believes that an outsider should not be interfering with their sacred customs. The stranger reveals a bag of coins he had with him when he arrived, and Luca's necklace falls out. He claims that the necklace had always been with him, and he had simply forgotten its significance. Now he believes he truly is Luca, while Bee and Daisy believe him. Evie accuses him of attacking the real Luca to steal it, sparking an argument. Mother intervenes by praising Evie for protecting the family. This favoritism upsets Bee, who reminds everyone that Gabe's condition is Evie's fault for spying on her sister instead of preventing him from going outside unprotected. This causes Evie to depart in tears. At dinner, the stranger finally gets to sit at the table, and all these changes have put Gabe on edge. Later, Evie goes to ask Mother why she's the only one that can see the truth, but Mother simply tells her not to worry because she has a plan. Once a child comes, the man will be gone because Luca always leaves. That night, the siblings have to hear Bee and the stranger getting busy on Bee's bed. A few days later, the stranger's leg is finally fully healed, but Mother still doesn't let him take sentry shifts alone. When the girls are doing the washing, Evie notices Bee hasn't had her monthly bleeding and lets Mother know about it. Mother begins keeping track of Bee's monthlies with her calendar, and a few weeks later, she informs her daughter that she's indeed pregnant. Bee is very happy to hear the news, but her glee turns sour when Mother explains their resources are limited, so Bee will have to choose between keeping the baby or the stranger. Bee begins crying and yelling to show how upset she is, triggering one of Gabe's panic attacks, making him run outside. Evie rushes after him as memories come to her of the day the same happened when he was a kid and he lost his memory, bringing all the guilt out. Suddenly, the stranger shows up without a mask and picks Gabe up to bring him back inside before telling Evie that this isn't her fault. Evie still cries, while she explains Gabe had a beautiful mind that he lost because of her. But before the stranger can comfort her, a jealous Bee interrupts them and reminds the stranger he must come with her for the next sentry shift. When they make it outside, Bee tells the stranger she's pregnant and that he'll need to leave, but he refuses to do so, hugging Bee and promising they'll make Mother see reason. Meanwhile, Gabe sees Evie napping and gets on her bed too to try to reach his peak. Evie wakes up and pushes him off, but to avoid getting him more upset, she offers to help in a different way. Later, while everyone is resting, Evie leaves the bed because she can't sleep and the stranger follows her. He tells her she doesn't need to live in guilt forever, and that she shouldn't be doing those things with Gabe if she doesn't mean it. Evie disagrees because Gabe deserves to be happy, but the stranger thinks so does she. The next day, the stranger teases Gabe for his feelings for Evie and points out she doesn't love him, she merely sympathizes with him. This infuriates Gabe, leading to another outburst that shatters a window. The girls rush to seal it before the toxin can infiltrate, and Mother scolds Gabe for his actions. However, the newcomer contends that it was an unintentional mishap. Later, Mother confides in the newcomer, expressing her suspicion that Gabe was present both times he lost control. The newcomer concedes that he believes Gabe is becoming increasingly unpredictable and might find greater happiness without memories outside. However, Mother remains resolute in her decision, prioritizing Gabe over a stranger. As night falls, Mother secures Gabe to the bed and recollects their shared history to foster feelings of love. While leaving, she encounters the newcomer, who realizes that she cannot be manipulated like the girls. He makes the grim decision to eliminate her in the greenhouse using a garden tool. Afterward, he leaves the lifeless body and the tool beside Gabe's bed, attempting to make it appear as though Gabe committed the act. When Gabe awakens and discovers his mother's lifeless body, the newcomer emerges and accuses him of murder, provoking Gabe's rage and prompting him to attack the newcomer. The girls hear the disturbance and arrive just in time to witness the stranger separate from Gabe forcefully. When the man accuses Gabe of murdering Mother, Evie, overwhelmed by emotion, believes him and breaks down in tears. B, deeply upset, refuses to accept that Gabe is the culprit. She attempts to formulate an explanation, suggesting that perhaps Gabe had a nightmarish episode and unintentionally harmed Mother in his sleep without awareness. Later, the stranger pays a visit to Gabe, who is shackled, and proceeds to gag him before opening a window, claiming it's for the best. The stranger reveals that he had to witness his loved ones deteriorate and yearned to forget as well. However, when he removed his mask, the toxin didn't affect him. He remains uncertain why he is immune but is convinced that memories equate to pain. Thus, letting the toxin inside will supposedly bring happiness to Gabe. The girls initiate the preparations for the ritual involving Mother's body. However, Daisy finds the prospect of performing such acts on their own mother deeply disturbing. Consequently, Evie takes Daisy away to soothe her. Unbeknownst to Evie, she leaves her box behind, providing Bee with an opportunity to investigate. Inside, Bee discovers the small bag with Luca's name and the 2 batteries. This triggers a recollection of her shooting an outsider that she had never disclosed to her family. She hastily exits the house, heading to the garden where she digs a grave and retrieves a flashlight that brings back the memories in full. Astonishingly, Bee realizes that the man she had killed was the genuine Luca. Unable to provide the identification code due to dead flashlight batteries to conceal the truth from her family, she buries them together and removes her mask in an attempt to forget her actions. The fact that the batteries in the necklace were found in Evie's box implies that she was aware of the incident all along. Bee returns indoors to confront her sister for leading her to believe that Luca could return. However, Evie explains that she did it to shield Bee from greater anguish. This revelation prompts Bee to propose going outside together, but Evie declines, unwilling to lose her sense of self, and tries to prevent her. The stranger intervenes to halt their struggle, and when he focuses on Evie, Bee becomes jealous and flees outside to forget, while Evie desires to chase after her. The stranger stops her, emphasizing that she has the right to her own life. At that moment, Daisy informs the others that Gabe has undergone a transformation, lying silently in bed as if he were absent. As Evie endeavors to discern the cause of Gabe's condition, Bee re-enters the house and fails to recognize the stranger, confirming that the toxin has erased her memory. Evie starts to understand that her family is slowly forgetting everything because of the toxin. She realizes she's the only one who remembers. The stranger tells her he can't forget either and promises to help. Evie agrees they won't tell the family's dark secrets and will work together to keep everyone safe. After that, things change in the family. Evie and the stranger become the leaders, and Daisy realizes she's Bee's daughter, not Mother's. The real Luca got B pregnant, but he left when Mother made her choose between the baby and him. After the ritual for Mother's body, the new family starts a happy life together, updating the glass artwork to show the new members. He doesn't wear a mask anymore when he goes outside, and Evie hopes that since the stranger is the father, the baby will be safe with his immunity. Gabe may not talk, but he starts to do things on his own. One afternoon, he starts digging in the garden because he remembers something. He finds 2 skeletons wearing Evie and B necklaces, showing that the people alive aren't the originals. Mother always believed in balance. She would use a new person as Luca whenever she needed to replace one of her children. And once the baby was born, she would say Luca always leaves. Meanwhile, the stranger, now officially the latest Luca, starts doing sentry shifts on his own. When a young, healthy wanderer comes into their home, Luca decides it's time for a new replacement and shoots Gabe instead. The end. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.